My name is Peter Raymer. Today we're going to look at how to debug a batch process in Microsoft Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. In past videos I showed you how you could debug X++ code using Visual Studio, both using the Start button when you had an object in your Visual Studio process, as well as going up to Debug and Attach to Process and either finding the IIS Express service or the W3WP service to attach to. However, there are some processes that you can run in batch in D365. That means they're offloaded to a separate service to run in the background so that they're not affecting your real-time user interface and you're not waiting for that process to finish. So the quick answer is the way we do that is we actually come in through the same process. We say debug, attach to process. We make sure that this checkbox, show process from all users, is checked, and then we select the batch.exe. This service is going to allow us to debug jobs that are running as batch jobs or jobs running in Sys Operations Framework. So first of all, we need to add a breakpoint to our code, but let's take a quick step back. How do you know what class we need to add a breakpoint to? So let's take a look at an example. If I open Dynamics 365, I can come up to the top bar, and if I type the word invoice, I'm going to see accounts receivable, invoices, batch invoicing. This is a job that runs to batch invoice sales orders. It's a very common job that you may want to debug. The way we can figure out what class is running behind the scenes is a couple different ways. Sometimes if there is a form like this, we can actually right click, say form information, and then click on this form name here. We're going to get a dialog on the side. If we go to administration and scroll down, we can actually see a caller name and see that this is sales form letter underscore invoice and caller type class. So that tells me that this is the class that's running that opened this dialog form, and this is where we would want to put a breakpoint. So let's go take a look at that real quick, and I'll show you one other way as well. So if we come into the Application Explorer, which we can see by saying View Application Explorer, and then type sales form letter underscore invoice, we'll get a list of options. Eventually you can browse to find this under classes. If you right click and say view code, you'll be able to see all the code related to this. What we're really looking for with a batch job is the run method. And so we can actually add a breakpoint to the run method by pushing the F9 key. That toggles our breakpoint, or click on the left hand side here to add a breakpoint. Now that we've got a breakpoint, we can actually run our batch job, attach to the batch service, and then wait for this service to hit. Before we do that, I just wanted to show one other way we could have found what class this is running on, and that's through the menu item itself. So when we type invoice in the top here, we can see that this is under accounts receivable, invoices, batch invoice. And if we actually go into the Application Explorer under user interface, we can look at the menus and actually look under accounts receivable, invoices, batch invoice, and then actually see the names of the menu items that are being run. In this case, this is the name of the menu item. It's an action menu item called sales form letter underscore invoice. That doesn't actually tell us what class, so we can again search for that menu item and then look at the class from there. So here is the action menu item, and if we look at the properties of this menu item, we can see the object type is class and the object being run is sales form letter. And in this case, I think we're passing in a property to actually call the sales form letter underscore invoice class. So technically this one's calling sales form letter base class first, and then later it'll call sales form letter underscore invoice. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to debug, attach to process, select the batch job and click attach. Now I need to actually run my job in batch. One other thing to note is very often if you need to debug a batch job, you can run the job just directly and debug it normally. There are certain cases where you may want to specifically debug the job while it's running in batch, but very often it's going to be easier and more direct for you to run the same class or job not running in batch. And what I mean by that is when we click this batch button, we can make sure that the batch processing is set to no. But in this case, we'll set it to yes. We'll check the reoccurrence and make sure that it's supposed to run right away. We're going to end after one time. In this case, you very likely would have a reoccurring batch job. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Make sure that this is set to yes, and then click OK. And then if the batch service is running, it should start pretty soon. And once that batch service picks up our change or starts running the code, we're gonna hit our breakpoint. After a little bit of time, your breakpoint will hit right here. And you'll see your execution pointer is on your breakpoint. At this point, you can debug the code just like you would any other code. Once you're done debugging the code, if you want to run it again, you can either stay attached to the batch process and wait for the reoccurrence to happen, or you can trigger another run of the job running in batch. Again, very often it's easier to just run the same batch job not running in batch, so that you can debug and hit your execution pointer immediately. But occasionally you'll run into issues that only occur when the job is running in the batch service, in which case attaching to the batch.exe and debugging is a great way to go. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, click the like button. I also invite you to push the subscribe button as well. If there's other topics you would like to see a video on, please post in the comments and I'll see what I can do. I hope you learned something new today. Thank you.